think I'm live again. Everyone, it is Friday the 13th. I just noticed that. I'm not a superstitious man, but I don't know, it's always kind of notable to me when Friday the 13th rolls around. Let me make sure my live's going. See what the delay is, of course. My live's going. Not too bad, about 5 seconds. See what the delay is. May reset. Okay, yeah. 3-5 seconds, something like that. Cliff, what are you doing? Get back to work, son. Piper said, Randy, welcome in, everybody. Oh, good. Okay, I was going to ask about the mic. I never know about this mic. Sometimes I plug the mic into because I've got this little lapel mic. Sometimes I plug it in before I start the video. Sometimes I plug it in right after I set up the video. And you never know if the phone's going to cooperate or not. But that should be pretty hot right there. All right, let's see. Oh, Cliff smoking his Asikian. That's a pretty pipe, Cliff. Windjammer and a 320, says Riley. Mike, please don't watch my video at the top of a very high ladder. I don't want to be responsible for that. Maybe just listen to it. All right. 15-year-old Penzance. Cliff, where'd you wind up with that kind of vintage Penzance? You must have friends in high places. Oh, you know what? I haven't turned on my air yet, and it's creeping up to 75. Let's turn on my little air unit out here. All right. Well, I think I'm going to smoke a lot of Kia blend today, which I don't do an awful, I don't smoke a ton of Kia. But I'm working to finish out this stimulus package from Captain Earl's. This tin's been open a good while. Oh yeah, my Star Wars shirt. I was going to mention my shirt later on. I might come back to that. Oh, Boca got it to you. Very nice. Oh, let's see. So I'm loading up my Peterson 999 shape in their Dublin Filter series. For whatever reason, well, because pipe smokers tend to make their own little rules, and quite often they're not hard and fast rules, but I'm trying to stick to this. Most of my Peterson pipes, I smoke Kia blends in. They've kind of become my Kia pipes, and not necessarily because they smoke English blends better than other pipes, or worse. Just I'm trying to pick a set of pipes to smoke Kia blends in, so I don't have a whole lot of cross bleeding from ghosting or that kind of thing. Now my Peterson Phoenix pipe, I tend to smoke everything else in it. Well, not aromatics, but I smoke non-aromatics primarily in my Peterson Phoenix pipe. But my Dublin filters and my Army filter from Peterson, I'm smoking Kia blends in. And that has seemed to work out pretty well for me. Cliff's quoting the Doors. Did I put a filter in here? Yes, I did. All right. Pipe wasn't hot yet, you guys. I could still open it up. But again, I'm not the poster child for best practices, so don't do what Eddie Don't does. Cliff, I'm guessing you have Fridays off, huh? There we go. Randy, glad you got a Friday Savinelli happening, man. How does the $9.99 compare to the Savinelli 673? They're pretty close in size. Where's my closest 673? I see it. One moment. Trying not to rip my microphone off, you guys. I'm tethered. All right. Here's the Savinelli 673, and here is the Peterson 999. The bowl is about the same shape, or about the same size, but just slightly longer. The stem is just a tad longer, unless that's some sort of, yeah, I think it's just a tad longer. Not an illusion. So this is my second pipe of the day. If you guys are on Instagram, you may have seen my post from this morning. I was reading some Lord of the Rings out on the back porch and smoking my Country Gentleman cob. With some Pegasus. Yeah, so I have always wanted to read the Lord of the Rings books, and I even started the Fellowship of the Ring. I've read The Hobbit. Of course, that's much more easy reading because it was geared towards children, I do believe. But after I finished The Hobbit, and this was 15, 20 years ago, I tried to read The Fellowship of the Ring, and I got really bogged down. There's a lot of, it's a dense book, and there's a lot of genealogy type stuff, and, you know, Balin, son of Fundin, and things like that. And then you got to find out who made everybody's swords and what the lineage is of the swords and the sword makers, and it gets pretty thick for me, and it's not something I consider pleasurable reading, but the adventure parts and the conversation parts are nice. And of course, those books spawned, you know, the whole fantasy genre, basically. They're kind of the touchstone for all of that, but so I have a great respect for the books, but I've never gotten through them. So I'm once again attempting in my late 40s to read those books. I know some people that read through those books every year. I I rarely read the same book twice, especially a book series, just because I'm such a slow reader and I don't get through that many books, which is odd since I was an English major. Oh, Cliff's reading the Harry Potter series. Uh, I've read those books and I really like them, and I think The Goblet of Fire is possibly my favorite. Either that or the final book, the seventh book. But I think maybe The Goblet of Fire is a better structured story. But I did like the ending of that series. Definitely not as dense of a read as The Lord of the Rings, though. In any case, that's enough about books for now, I think. Yeah, I know Tolkien smoked the capstan, and I think it was the blue. That was his favorite, if not one of his favorites. I need to get back to the Narnia series at some point because I've only read the first one of those. I'm back talking about books again. Sorry, guys, but um, I started reading. I've also never read a Dragonlance book or any Dungeons and Dragons based books. So earlier this year, I read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which was the first in a trilogy in the Dragonlance setting. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I thought, I've always been kind of scared of getting into all of that stuff because there's so many books, and I tend to like standalone books instead of getting so invested in a series like that. But because I was able to get through that first book, and I didn't have the second book yet, I had to order it because I wasn't sure if I'd ever get through the first one. I decided to pick up The Fellowship of the Ring while I was waiting on that next book in the Dragonlance series, which owes quite a bit to Tolkien's works, but not as dense as Tolkien's works. I would say I probably had more fun reading the Dragonlance book, honestly. We got 14 in here. That's less than we've had historically this week. That's interesting with it being Friday. I would have thought I'd have a few more folks watching today. Roll call. What's everybody else smoking? And while y'all are doing that, I'll give you a little update on my shoulder because I mentioned I've been having shoulder problems for a couple of months now. I did go to the chiropractor. I didn't want to just go to an orthopedic surgeon first. So I went to a chiropractor because I had read that chiropractors can help with shoulder injuries. And he said it was the beginnings of what's known as a frozen shoulder. So I've been to him twice now. I'm going to go back a third time next week, and he's pretty confident. Initially he said 2 times, but he's pretty confident after this third time I'll pretty much be back up to normal. But I'm glad to have some relief from that pain. I still have some pains here and there, but you know, this arm I can put way up, and this arm a couple of weeks ago I could only go like this far up, and now I can go about that far up. Not quite at 100%, I'm probably at 80%. Yeah, nice, Cliff. No, I'm trying not to give anyone the cold shoulder. That's reserved for only a few people in this world. I tend to find that most people have a good story to tell and a decent outlook on life, enough to appreciate where they are and what they can offer. That was quite the dad joke, Cliff. I had a heck of a dad joke the other day. I wish I could recall it. You know it's a dad joke when you're laughing hysterically. No one else around you thinks it's funny. They're just staring at you. But speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, you know, in middle school, I probably played D&D with a handful of friends, 3 or 4 guys, for like 6 months, maybe. Never played it again, so it's not like my kids picked that up from me. But oddly enough, 2 of my 3 children, my 2 oldest children, both play D&D, like the tabletop game. Piper said, with the Matches 860 special. I really enjoyed that Sun Bear Black Locust, and the original Sun Bear. Nice honey taste. It's not what I would necessarily call an aromatic, although, well, it is kind of a lightly aromatic tobacco, but more naturally aromatic than most aromatics. With that honey. But yeah, so my kids play the tabletop D&D, which I would think they would be more inclined to play video games if they're interested in that setting. I would think they'd play some D&D video games. But no, that's what I do. I play the video games and they play the tabletops. Interesting. In this day and age, I certainly would have thought the reverse would have been true, if anything. Riley, have a good one. Oh, I almost got sidetracked and didn't go live because I saw that Chad Yardism put out a music video. Not the kind where he's rocking out on guitar, but the kind where he talks about music. And he's up to the year 1991. So he was doing best albums of 1991. I started it, and then I was like, no, if I don't go live now, I'm not going to this morning. So I'll be watching that later today. It's been a while since Yardism made one of those videos, and I've been really looking forward to it. Of course, he's in the 90s now. That's the point at which, for me personally, new albums became fewer and farther between that I was interested in or really enjoyed. For me, the 90s was a dark period. All of my favorite hard rock and metal bands had either broken up or were no longer relevant as far as radio play or MTV. 91 is about the last gasp of that kind of music. Because you had the new guard coming on with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots and bands like that. But then you still had some of the old guard making albums at the exact same time. So it was a strange top 40 landscape for a while. And then the grunge bands and the alternative bands, won out. And then the 90s, you started getting a bunch of Me Too bands that sounded like the new guard of alternative and grunge. And then you sadly saw some of the old bands making albums that were intended to sound close to that vein, just to try to stay relevant in the musical landscape. And the vast majority of those albums are either completely not good or just lesser albums from those artists. Now, in more recent years, I've started delving back into the stacks of old music, the history of rock and hard rock and folk and southern rock and all this kind of stuff that I enjoy. Blues, and I'm finding bands in the 90s that I didn't give a chance to back in the day, that I do enjoy. These days I find more older bands than newer bands. If the 90s was hard for new music, man, the 2020s have... 20 teens and 2020s, I've not found very much new music that I enjoy, unless it's from older bands. There are exceptions, but it's rare that I find a new artist that I like. This has become a pop culture podcast, live stream. And it all started with my Star Wars shirt. I was going to mention, I've been a fan of Star Wars since the original movie, and I was a little kid when that came out. I think the first Star Wars movie I saw in the theater was probably Empire. When did Empire come out? Empire Strikes Back? Probably came out in 79, 80, something like that. So I was probably 5 when that movie came out. And I vaguely remember, I may not have seen that one in the theater, but I definitely saw The Return of the Jedi in the theater, and I was 8 years old. Yeah. So I vaguely remember seeing Empire at age 5. And then somehow I saw the first movie, even though I didn't catch that in the theater. I don't know that video stores were quite a thing back then. Maybe I caught it on TV, I have no idea. But I do remember as a kid, I watched the original Star Wars movie a ton. Yeah, 77 was the first Star Wars movie. But I've also always been a fan of Star Trek. And, you know, when I was a kid, my dad would watch Star Trek reruns. Old Star Trek, the original Star Trek from the 60s. And even back then, I thought it was hokey and cheap looking, but it was fun. You know, the stories were campy and somewhat thoughtful. RSM Piper Dude, welcome. But I've gone back and, you know, I've always liked both. Some people are Star Wars people and some people are Star Trek people. Some people just don't care for science fiction stuff at all, but I've never been one over the other. I've always liked them both. I loved The Next Generation. That was the sweet spot for me in Star Trek. That and the second movie, Wrath of Khan, was really good. But in recent years, man, it's been a mess. Both Star Wars and Star Trek, those franchises have just gone off the rails, in my opinion. And I think Disney Plus is bringing Star Wars back to some semblance of fun and good. But man, those last two Skywalker saga movies, I could not stand those movies. And I wasn't a big fan of the Star Trek reboots either. And I really don't like Star Trek Discovery. I tried it, it sucks. Star Trek Picard is okay, but that's not the tone I want in my Star Trek. Neither of those shows. Yeah, I watched Battlestar Galactica, said way back in the day as a kid. What was his name? Twiggy, the robot? And Buck Rogers. I watched some Buck Rogers. Now, another sci-fi show that I never got into until just this past couple of years was Stargate. And I always saw ads for it, but it had that dude from MacGyver in it. That's not why I didn't watch it, but there were always guns, like in the commercials and stuff, and I just thought, what is this? I mean, this wasn't what I was looking for at the time in science fiction. But I've been watching Stargate lately. We're up through me and my oldest, we're in season 6 right now, and it went 10 seasons. Couldn't believe that. Yes, I have Firefly on Blu-ray. I really like that. I wish that could have lasted longer than one season. Oh, Buck Rogers had Twiggy. Is that right? Yeah. Thanks for keeping me straight, Cliff. Yeah, but I like sci-fi. I like fantasy. I like more true to life stories. I like true stories, biographies and documentaries and such. I just like well-crafted storytelling in whatever form that comes. Saint Espresso. Hmm. Who makes Saint Espresso, RSM Piper? Doctor Who is one I never got into. I've watched a few episodes here and there, but I never got into it. Zero, I am smoking some Captain Earl's stimulus package. A fairly stout English blend. Hmm. Yeah, Cliff, I remember the hot chick in the tight pants as a kid too. There was one episode, and I probably mentioned it before, of Buck Rogers where there was like a space vampire that only that woman could see, and he just kept staring at her from across the room, and then he would disappear. Nobody else saw him. Terrifying. And there may have been a bathroom scene, but whether there was or not, I was, as a kid, terrified of the space vampire, uh, specifically when I took a shower for some reason. I was always afraid as a kid that that space vampire was going to be peering over the top of the curtain at me. Wasn't afraid of Psycho. I was afraid of the space vampire. Ernie, I would never say never. Radice pipes and Castello pipes are great. I mean, those are phenomenal pipe brands, but I don't have them on the rollout schedule this year, certainly. But maybe in the future. I'm focusing more on, filtered pipes, even though I do carry and sometimes roll out new unfiltered series or brands, but I'm trying to focus on filtered pipes. It's a niche within a niche that I'm trying to service for those of us that prefer that. Anybody got any cool plans for the weekend? I may be taking a day trip to another brick and mortar. I doubt they'll have any pipe stuff though. Looking at it's a cigar shop in Daphne, Alabama. Less than an hour from me. a local customer of mine says it's a nice place, and he smokes pipes and cigars, about half and half. He was thinking about going tomorrow. I might tag along with him. Bob, glad you got that pipe. Now smoke the fire out of it. You know, when I went to the Tinderbox in Mobile earlier in the week, I picked up a Quorum cigar, which was decent. But even better than that, I picked up a Tinderbox brand. I forget what it was called. Factory Smokes or something like that. I wasn't expecting much because I think it was a Churchill. Maybe a Toro, but you know, it was like a $3 a $3 cigar, maybe $3.50. But it was velvety smooth to the touch and to the taste, and it smoked very evenly. I was super impressed with that smoke for the money. Good grief. Disregarding the money, I've smoked $7, $8, $9 cigars in the past that didn't smoke that well or taste that good. Interesting. Churchills are typically not my style. That's way too big of a cigar for me. I like a smaller ring gauge. Corona, probably about my speed. Taekwondo. Iron Brigade Piper. I hope I hope he digs it. If not, I hope you find out quick. And before you spend too much going down that road. My middle child did Kukido for a while. A couple of years, I think. And then the pandemic hit, and she hasn't gotten back into it yet. I don't know if she will, because she's starting high school next year, and she may be in marching band like my oldest did, and that takes up a bunch of free time. I do enjoy the occasional cigar, but price-wise and storage-wise and taste-wise, I greatly prefer a pipe. And I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but you know, when you're done smoking a pipe, you still have the pipe. But when you're done smoking a cigar, you're just throwing away a cigar butt, and I don't know. It just feels better somehow for me to just clean out the pipe and still have a pipe. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else out there, but yeah, I like the Flor de Olivas as well, Ernie. I personally have a hard time spending $9, $10 on a cigar, on one smoke, when, like I said the other day, you do have to buy the pipe, but then you have the pipe, and a bowl of pipe tobacco is about 50, 60 cents, something like that, and last about the same amount of time. The matches has that effect on people, Zero. Well, that's another thing too, about pipes versus cigars. That cigar smoke does stick to you much, much longer. I can smoke a cigar in the morning and my wife and kids smell it on me in the evening, but I can smoke 3 pipes throughout the day and they never mention it. But as soon as I smoke a cigar in the morning, they will know. And I like my hugs and kisses. I get more hugs and kisses with a pipe than with a cigar. I watched a video from Old Hollywood Briar the other day, and he was talking to a guy in a pipe shop, and I think the guy worked there, but he was like talking about this particular house blend, I think, and he said, "Yeah, I bought an ounce of this stuff, and I went outside and smoked it, and 5 beautiful college-aged women came and gathered all around me, and so I went back and bought 5 pounds of it." You do get that kind of effect with some aromatic pipe tobaccos. Probably not the stuff I typically smoke, which would be Haunted Bookshop or Pegasus or other Burley and Virginia-based blends. But non-smokers do tend to love the smell of aromatic pipe tobacco. Piper said my great-grandfather used to do that. He would occasionally, relatives would buy him stuff for like Father's Day or his birthday or Christmas. They would buy him cigars because he knew he smoked. But he smoked a pipe, and when they bought him cigars, he would cut them up and just put little segments of cigars in his pipe and smoke them that way. So he would get 4 or 5 smokes out of a cigar. Ernie says, yesterday you gave us your top 5 pipes. What would be your top 5 blends to go with those 5 pipes? Ooh. Ooh. That would be just as difficult. I used to do top tobaccos, you know, year by year, and I didn't make one this past year because I'm all over the map. There's so many good blends out there, and a lot of them are variations on a theme. So they can be lumped into categories and subcategories, but let's see. It definitely would be Haunted Bookshop. I really love Haunted Bookshop. Probably Pegasus. My favorite pipe tobacco to smoke is still Old Dark Fired by McBaron. So those would be my top 3. I would probably put... See, I would put University Flake in there as well from Peterson. So that would be 4. But I would also want to round it out with Irish Flake. But Irish Flake is pretty similar to Old Dark Fired. Again, you get into categorizations and like, I think for a 5th blend, I would want to have something different. But it may be Irish Flake. It's different enough to be distinct from Old Dark Fired, but... And that would be 2 ribbon cuts and 3 flakes. But if I left out the Irish Flake... I might go with Navigator from GLPs. Either that or Bluegrass from Cornell and Deal. But that would be really hard to make a top 5 tobaccos. Just as hard, if not harder, than top 5 pipes. Cliff, thanks for hanging with us, man. Definitely not bacon old-fashioned. That's become a rite of passage here in the YTPC, but definitely not a favorite. I don't have any Haunted Bookshop necessarily cellared. Now I do have a good bit, several tens of Old Dark Fired and University Flake and Irish Flake cellared. I think they cellar really well. So when I'm pulling tens out on the occasion that I do these days, those 3 blends are cellared for about 7 or 8 years at this point, the ones that I'm digging out to smoke. But the Haunted Bookshop, I don't know that I've ever cellared any, to be honest. I like it fresh out of the tin. I need to put a 10 or 2 away and cellar them and see the difference. Oh, I think I missed some stuff. Piper said I do have some Captain Black Grape sitting right here. And it is opened, but I don't ever reach for it. Not a favorite. Zero, there are 3 Stokeby flakes that I do love. They would be in the top 20 list, probably. Definitely a top 50 list. Again, I've got so many blends that I love that are enjoyable, highly enjoyable to me. But those 3 Stokeby flakes are great. The Luxury Twist Flake, the Deluxe, do they call it Deluxe Navy Flake? And their coins, forget what those are called. Bullseye, Luxury Bullseye Flake. Those are all great. My least favorite is probably the Twist Flake because it's got a vanilla topping to it that I'm not over the moon about. I would rather have their standard flake out of the 3. Their standard Navy Flake. Look at me too. I would smoke a Burley-based blend to break in a pipe. That or a Virginia-based blend, or both. Carter Hall is good. Briar Fox would be good. The Old Joe Krantz is also very, very good. It would probably be in my top 10. But you guys can see from that, like, you know, I haven't even mentioned a lot of Kia blends, and I'm smoking a lot of Kia blend, and I enjoy it. But not a lot of Kia blends would make my top 20, probably. Probably just 2 or 3. And possibly no aromatic blends would make my top 20. Even though I occasionally enjoy them, I'm by and large not an aromatic smoker. But if I were making a top 50, I would have some Autumn Evening on there and some GLP's Virginia Cream on there. Those are my 2 go-to aromatic blends. I typically keep 1 aromatic open tin out here. And currently I'm smoking through this Deep Hollow from McClelland, which is probably like smoking gold flakes at this point. but I've had this since 2014. And it's something in between Autumn Evening and Virginia Cream, I think. It's good. It's just no longer available, so. It's got that unique McClellan's Virginia tang to it, as well as being a vanilla aromatic. My favorite Latakia blends, it really depends. Sometimes I just want a light Latakia blend, and sometimes I want to get hit over the head with it, such as is the case with this stimulus package. But when I want a heavy Latakia blend, my favorites are Cornell and Deal's Pirate Cake and Captain Earl's 10 Russians. But if I want a lighter Latakia blend, I'll go with Captain Earl's Mystic Blend or Reflections. And Peterson's Early Morning Pipe. Also, for the dark, for the more stout Latakia blends, I would include Peterson's Nightcap, the old Dunhill Nightcap. So that would be, what's that, 3 Latakia blends that I would put in my top 50, I would say. Yep, Piper said mention the 10 Russians. That's a good stout Latakia blend. Zero, I'm glad to hear it. I'm here when you get an itch for another pipe. I don't think Peterson has started making Durbar. I imagine it won't, eventually they'll do it. But they haven't yet, as far as I know. But the Early Morning Pipe has a fair bit of Orientals in it. As does their standard mixture, I believe, which is also good. I don't, I've got both Stimulus and 10 Russians out here. I think the 10 Russians is a bit heavier Latakia, to my taste. They're both Latakia Orientals and Virginias. They're pretty similar blends to my taste. But for me, because I don't smoke that much Latakia, the Stimulus package is kind of towards the middle of the road, which I don't typically go middle of the road with Latakia. I do light or heavy, for whatever reason. Yeah, and the 10 Russians just smells stouter to me. I don't know. They're both solid blends, though. Epiphany from Cornell and Diehl even has a little bit of Latakia in it, but not much at all. So I almost wouldn't even call that an English blend. Or put it up, you know, as a Latakia blend to go to, specifically if you want Latakia. Man, so I've gone an hour again, you guys. 36 with us. I'm nearing the end of this bowl. So I'll probably be cutting it off here soon. I don't know if I'm gonna do weekend live streams or not. So I'm not gonna guarantee I'll be live tomorrow, but I may go live. I don't know if I want to make these live streams a 7-day-a-week thing or what. And I may get to the end of a week or two of this and be like, I don't know that I want to go live every day. But I'm doing my best to get back on that horse of making video content, as well as going live. Oh, the gentleman collar's good. I like the gentleman collar. I probably like the crooner a little bit better if you're looking for a deer tongue blend. The gentleman collar, there's something a little bit different about it. And they both have the deer tongue taste, but sitting here now without having smoked either of them for months at this point, I can't really put my finger on why I like the crooner better. It just seems a bit more, the gentleman collar seems a bit more refined, and the crooner seems a little more rough around the edges, but I like that. Maybe there's some kind of casing in the gentleman collar that accentuates that deer tongue / vanilla taste and smell. But I do like the crooner better. Ernie, I don't smoke enough of it for it to have ghost to the pipe. You know, when I smoke it, I just smoke like one bowl and then I'm on to other stuff before I come back to it. So it seems like there was a time I smoked 2 or 3 bowls in a row of one or the other of those. And it, you know, when I smoked something else in the pipe, there was a slight taste still of the deer tongue, but it went away. Now, if you smoke, I'm out. If you smoke a 10 of one of those deer tongue blends straight through with nothing in between in the same pipe, it will ghost that pipe. I'm confident. Excuse me. But if you like that taste, maybe you'll want to dedicate a pipe to deer tongue blends to kind of keep that flavor profile separate from the others. I don't enjoy it enough for it to be a favorite, so I only smoke it on occasion. So I haven't dedicated a pipe to deer tongue. All right, you guys. I'm at 65 minutes. That's about where I've stopped in the past few days. So I think I'll stop here, get busy doing something, and we'll leave it at that, and we will chat with you again hopefully soon. Have a good one.